Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful people in Orange County. I'm Danny Flores, your host, and today's honored guest is Corey Ferrantino, zooming in from Newport Beach. Corey is a lecturer at UCI and at USC. She has been a criminal defense attorney for the last 30 years. Corey, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about what you do. Your career sounds really interesting, and I'm sure you have a lot of good stories. But we don't want to hear all of them. Just
okay. I'm a trial lawyer in state and federal court. I do criminal defense work. I also do appellate work in state and federal court. And I've handled some writs of habeas corpus where people are released years after being convicted when they're wrongly convicted. And I've done a few parole hearings lately for a lot of the lifers that are now trying to get out. I worked with the public defender's office for 10 years of my career, and then the rest of the time I've been in private practice, most of the time in my own practice.
So I'm curious as to, did you just one day decide you wanted to be a criminal defense attorney, or how did that kind of, because sometimes we say we're going to do one thing and life pushes us in a different direction.
I thought I wanted to be a prosecutor. I grew up watching all those whodunit lawyer shows with my father, like Ironside, and I can't think of the other ones right now. But so I thought I wanted to be a prosecutor, and I worked for a court of appeal judge when I was in law school, who didn't like the local prosecutor and insisted that I go have lunch with a prominent criminal defense lawyer. Who I met. And the first question I said to him was, how do you represent guilty people? That you could have a whole podcast on that answer, but we can talk about constitutional rights and all those kind of things. But anyway, about 6 weeks later, he offered me a job as a law clerk, and I was waiting for my bar results, and then I got them, and defense just really fit my personality. I have a psychology background. You're working with people who many have mental illnesses or drug addictions, or just are at a bad time in their life where things have hit a crisis. And so my personality is one of wanting to help people, but also to find a solution to the problem and then move them on in a more positive direction. So it definitely ended up being a better fit for me, but I kind of fell into it. It wasn't what I thought I was set out to do.
So now if you're defending somebody for a crime, how can you tell if they're being honest with you and telling you, like, I didn't do it, or maybe it's I did it, and so how does that work?
Well, my job is to defend the person zealously and to challenge the government with their case. It's not really to assess the credibility of my client. And there are times that I need to do that when I'm going to go to trial, if the client's going to have to testify, but I'm not here to be the judge. And people may be dishonest for all kinds of reasons. They may admit they did something they didn't to protect somebody, or they may deny that they did something that they did. And I learned the hard way that early on, I made a judgment once on a client who had a scar down his face, had been in and out of prison, and I said, here, plead guilty. You're not getting any more time. You're going back to prison on a violation. And he insisted he wasn't guilty of this fight at his Jiffy Lube employment. And I didn't believe him. And we went to trial, and he testified, and he just credibility, truthfulness just reeked from him in front of the jury. And his boss looked like a liar, and the jury came back 20 minutes later, not guilty. And it was all about the principle to him. He's like, this is the one time I didn't do something, and I'm not going to say that I did. And it taught me early in my career to keep an open mind and not to quickly assume anything, judge people. And it's really not my job to do that unless it's something that I strategically need to investigate for the strength of the case and that kind of thing. The other party players in the system are there to seek the truth. The prosecutors are, but it's not the job of the defense lawyer. My primary job is to zealously represent my clients. If I choose not to in particular cases, then I may be sacrificing certain people's, right to a zealous defense, and they may not be guilty of an offense. So
yeah, I guess just because you make one bad decision doesn't mean every decision you make is going to be bad, right? And that's
and also sometimes just because you're charged with a crime doesn't mean you committed it. Or maybe you didn't commit all the crimes you've been convicted of. Or maybe the sentence that the government wants isn't reasonable for what you did do. So there's a lot of area where we can advocate for our clients, and the court can often lands in the right place. Sometimes it doesn't, but it often does.
Now, how does it feel? And I think we've all seen this on TV when somebody has been convicted incorrectly and 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you have like newer technology to prove them innocent, through DNA samples or whatever the case may be. How does it feel to be able to get somebody to go free? Because that's like 20 years of their life lost, and you can never get that back. I don't think any amount of money can recuperate.
No, and fortunately, I've been involved in some of those cases where my clients are now living, a free life out of custody, and they're seizing every opportunity because they see it as a second chance. It is very difficult, and excuse me, and we fight for clients, and sometimes I've got several clients that I've handled their habeas matters. I reinvestigated the case post-conviction. I'm convinced the science wasn't correct, the experts weren't correct, but a judge didn't ultimately agree with it. I have other clients where the courts did agree and released them. I have a client in the exoneration registry who spent 9 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. His first lawyer didn't look at the science and had doctors available and didn't call them about the timing of the injury. And excuse me. And we were able to go to trial, and he got a retrial, and then we were able to go to trial, and he was acquitted. The thing that strikes me, though, is those people are often so appreciative of what they have in life. They're not wasting their time being resentful to the system or the people that put them there.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you can choose to live your life in hate, or you can choose to look at it, you know what, it's my second chance, let me make the best of it.
Right. And those people are very inspiring to me, because we often get bogged down with the small things in life, and then you look at people that have really suffered and yet have such a positive outlook on life. And it reminds you every day to kind of adjust your frame of mind.
Right. I mean, we're blessed every day. Every day we're out here, and just because we have an abundance, we're not as appreciative as maybe somebody else is in life, right? Make it productive, make a change, help people, whatever you can do that's positive. Now, there's a lot of competition in your business. What makes you stand out above the other defense attorneys?
I do think that when someone hires a lawyer, they really need to trust the person that's representing them. So it's very important they have a good rapport with them. So I'm not going to be a good fit for everybody. I would say that I pretty diligent in turning over every stone to make sure I haven't missed anything. I take my time. I want to make sure I've explored every opportunity for my client, whether it's settlement or trial, and I don't want to miss anything. And so I think that's a strength. It can cause stress to some clients who want the case over with quickly, but they come to trust me when I say, I think we can do better than this if you give me more time. I also, I have significant experience with mental health. I worked in that department in the public defender's office for 3 years. So I do tend to get cases where family members are at the end of their rope. They don't know what to do. Their loved one has been in and out of custody, and they will come to me looking for a solution so that the court will take into consideration the mental illness. And I understand a lot of the treatment, the drugs, the things that can help get them out of the system. So that's another area. And then I've tried a lot of complex cases, that lengthy cases. So I think that people come to me when it's kind of life is on the line and they need to feel like someone's going to give their all for them. And I've done that in the past, so they know I'm willing to do that again. So
how do they know you even exist? Is it like word of mouth? And I don't mean it in a negative way. It's
no, it's a good question. I've been around 30 years. So when I started, it's word of mouth, right? And it's the best recommendation is from families or clients that you've represented. And if someone knows about their situation and then they are in trouble or a loved one is, they'll call and say, who helped you, or that kind of thing. And those have always been the best cases that have come my way, because those people already have a level of trust with me. They know somebody that I helped and we had a good relationship. When internet marketing came on the scene, I will say that created, for me at least, some problems, because people would get arrested and get out at 2 a.m. and start searching the web. And, they'd call up 7 lawyers, and you can't give anything really meaningful over the phone in a 20-minute call where they just want to know how much are you going to charge. And so I did for a while, I did internet marketing. I paid a nice sum of money a month for that. I don't do that anymore. I rely on word of mouth. And I guess I've been doing it long enough that people know what kind of cases I do and other lawyers do. A lot of civil lawyers will refer cases to me when their clients or friends or family members are in trouble. Civil lawyers are probably where I get most of my cases.
So it's just the reputation. 30 years in, people know you. You know many of the attorneys, and it's all mostly referral based.
Yeah, and then a lot of business, I do a lot of white collar crime. And so if a company is served with a subpoena, let's say, or the search warrant, they come out and they take all their boxes and they call their civil attorney because they don't know what to do. And they're like, what do we do? And so the civil attorney will often call me and say, hey, we need you right away, which is really smart. You want to get a criminal defense attorney in immediately if there's any subpoena or any kind of law enforcement involvement. And because I'm used to dealing with those parties, and I can, intercede without people think it'll make it look bad, but it really doesn't. It's really just a smart, thoughtful thing to do when you're encountering law enforcement or a prosecutor's office.
Even though you're innocent or whatever, you still have to go through the procedure and prove yourself.
Yeah, you go to someone who works in that field, right? And so.
Yeah. So somebody's listening to us and maybe they're thinking of getting into law and trying to decide maybe what they should specialize in. I think if I'm correct, there's like 230 different specialties in law. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around there. What do you think is the best way to give them a tip on how to get in the business and figure out what they really want to do passionately?
Well, I teach at both UCI and USC, and one of the things that's really exciting is to talk to students about what they want to do and what they think they want to do. And I think that you really need to take chances and try a lot of different things. It's just as important to find out what you don't want to do as to find out what you do want to do. And there will be people that have seen all these crime shows and they think they love it, and then they get into helping on criminal cases and they don't love it. They don't want to deal with going to jails and being in these courtrooms with people that have been charged with crimes and things like that. You have to be willing to show respect and give dignity to these people. And if you can't do that, then it's not for you. The nice thing about criminal defense, though, is it incorporates so many other specialties. If I have a Ferrari manslaughter case, all of a sudden I'm learning everything there is to know about accident reconstruction and the physics of automobile accidents and Ferraris. Right. If I have a homicide that deals with a brain injury, I'm learning everything, all this medical evidence about, cause of death and things like that. When I had a mortgage fraud case, I had, mortgage experts and banking experts and people like that. And so you learn about what's going on in that field. Same thing with securities. So if you're never bored, I say, there's
Right.
always, and you're always having to learn new disciplines that are incorporated into your case. And then because we then need to take the expert information and translate it to the jury in a way that they will understand it. So that's been really interesting and exciting. I've just explored so many different areas of expertise, professionals, that kind of thing. I can always say a little bit at a cocktail party about a lot, but when people find out what I do, then they're worried. I don't want to need you, so.
Right. Yeah, but you never know, right?
Yeah. They like to have my card, but they don't want anyone to know they have my card.
Right. But you know what? Now that you said that, just knowing you, and maybe you need an expert, not because you committed a crime or you're in any trouble, but maybe you need an expert in mortgage or in Ferrari reconstruction or anything like that. They can say, "Hey, Corey, you know what? Do you know anybody I can talk to?" You just never know, right? That's the idea.
Well, I am on listservs with a lot of different lawyers, civil lawyers, and I do give out referrals all the time because I've worked with so many experts. And often it's for a civil case or for, it's mostly lawyers, but it's for other kinds of matters.
Right.
That's nice. That's probably my other way of networking is just communicating with other lawyers on listservs, offering up recommendations or helpful information when I can. And then they reciprocate if they, run into someone who needs representation like mine, they'll email me and say, "Hey, can you talk to this person?" So
Yeah. No, that's good to know. I'm definitely going to keep your number just in case.
you and everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what has been one of your biggest challenges in your career that you had to overcome?
Well, I will say that being a trial lawyer, a criminal defense trial lawyer doing high stakes cases is very stressful, and it's very wearing on your personal life and your health. So I would say that's been my biggest challenge. When you're in trial for 5 months, leaving at 6 in the morning and coming home at 11, 12 at night and working all the weekends. And it's a very unpredictable job. You don't know what's going to happen each day with the witnesses or the judge or anything. And so you're living on a kind of an adrenaline rush that probably is not, I could say now, probably not healthy for you. So I will say when COVID hit and we all slowed down, the one reason I've looked into teaching more is that, it takes a toll on you. And when you're working in that intensity for such a long period, and I really never stopped for 27 years or so, 28 years. So I would say that if looking back, I would have tried to turn off the brain of mine with the clients a little bit more, and then the evenings on the weekends. I always dedicated the time to my family, and then my job, my family first, my job. But I was juggling all that, but it was really hard. And so there were times that I wasn't taking care of myself. You're not eating as well as you should because you're on the run or you're traveling. You're not sleeping because you're either working or you can't sleep because your brain is worrying about all the things that are going on. And then, fitness and things like that is just so hard to squeeze in. And I think we really need, especially in the criminal defense world, and especially public defenders, because they have it the hardest. They are doing their cases are so difficult and so psychologically difficult that we really need to start supporting our lawyers. I mean, we're defending the Constitution, and people don't always realize, they don't realize that until someone they love is in trouble.
Right.
But it's not, when there's a victory, people aren't running around me celebrating. And the judge isn't very happy that he's ruled in my favor. In fact, often they wait till the end of the day, till everyone's gone, because we have this idea that being hard on crime is the way that we're supposed to handle everything. Things have shifted a bit with all of the exonerations we've seen and people released, but you don't do this work because you're going to get a lot of accolades, or you may win awards in your own community, but the public doesn't really love what you do. And so we need more wellness. We need more support for health. I've seen it take a toll on my colleagues. A lot of many that are not around anymore because probably of the stress, and it's taken a toll on me too. So that's been the one downside, I would say. Uh, but 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 I'm always working on that and that balance. So
Right. Now teaching, because teaching takes time. Does that mean you take less cases so you have a little bit of breathing room to enjoy the teaching part?
yeah, I mean, in the last 5 years, I've become a lot more selective in the cases I'm taking anyway. And so I've added teaching kind of on top of that, but I really love it. And yes, I've worked hard because there's a learning curve when you're teaching a class for the first time, but it's very invigorating. I love being around the students, and I'm talking about subjects that I know well. I've been
Mhm.
using them for 30 years. So, and their energy and enthusiasm and is very uplifting and encouraging. And so I feel in a way I'm giving back, but they're also giving to me. It's kind of giving me a bit of a boost, rejuvenating me a bit. So it's been really fun. And
Wow.
UCI has both schools have great programs, but UCI has a clinic that I work with. So I actually take students into the courtroom and they handle cases and I'm supervising them. And it's fabulous that they have all these clinics because these students are really getting hands-on experience while they're in law school. So it's been great.
Wow. Yeah, that's must be pretty gratifying to be able to do that
Mhm.
and participate in their education. Now, it looks like things are going well for you and your business. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And many business owners, such as yourselves, also look for other ways to create passive income aside from their regular business to potentially try to set themselves up for retirement or just to add an additional income stream for their families. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a great idea. I will say that I haven't really done that. um, I as a business owner, you should be investing in your SEP IRA and maxing that out and really looking at all the retirement vehicles you have because you don't have the same retirement that like a county employee would have. I think it's really important to have private disability insurance. You never know what can happen. And so you're covered in case you can't go to court. It's happened with a lot of colleagues where something happens and they're ill and they have to hand off their cases for a few months or whatever. So that's really important too. And as far as passive income, I've explored some ideas of webinars and things like that, or maybe a mentoring type program. Um, but a lot of that we do that on a pro bono basis. I mentor people because people mentored me, and so it's a way of paying back. So there is so much now that goes on the internet about people subscribing and sharing information and that kind of thing. It's not, I didn't really grow up in that whole
Right.
world. So it's my adult children will say, Mom, you need to do a webinar and you need to have subscribers and this and that. So it's something we've talked about. And I have a son that's a web designer and all that. So you may see me in the future, but I haven't done it yet. So
Okay, maybe if they harp on you enough that you'll say, okay, let's do something like that.
yeah. So, and it would be fun, but you got to set back a little bit from what you're doing, and that's kind of what teaching has done. I've kind of made some space for that, so I would have to make space for the other as well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of similar, it's all like teaching. I would want to teach. I would want to offer advice to young lawyers, so
Yeah.
that would be something. But I do think I do have colleagues that own, buy property throughout the country and they really have look for a passive income. I haven't done that as much. I think it's a good idea though. I probably
Yeah.
should have.
Yeah. I know it's never too late, right? Never too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our interview, what does 2025 look like for you?
Um, let's see. Well, it's challenging right now. I don't want to get too far into politics, but I do represent a lot of non-citizens, and I help them with their California has a provision where they can get their criminal convictions vacated if they were not properly advised of the immigration consequences. So I would say I have a lot of clients that are very concerned about all that. That's creating a lot of work. It's exciting on the people that are getting released earlier from prison, and the programs now, they're doing really good things in prison to show that they can contribute to the community. And I'm a part of some cases where that's happening, and that's really exciting to see people obtain second chances and really take advantage of it. So I'm hopeful for some of those clients. And then we'll see what else. I've got children all over the world right now, so I may be doing a little traveling too to catch up with them. So
yeah, nothing wrong with that. Take a trip and visit your children and get like first-hand tours of wherever they're at.
Yeah. So we've got it all over the country, and then one just went to Australia. So we're looking. We kind of follow our kids around on our free time. So
Oh, very good, very good. Well, Corey, thanks so much for sharing your story and insights and tips on what you do and the cases you take. Now, if somebody's listening to us and they wanted to get a hold of you, what would be the best way?
probably going to my website. It's ferrentinolaw.com. FERRENTINOLAW.com, and then you'll have all our office information. If you give us a call or you email us, we will get back to you. And I'm happy to talk to individuals, even if it's not a fit. And if I am not the right fit, or I can't take your case, I'd love to help you find somebody that can, because I think that is really important. It can be a really tough time when you're having to look for a criminal defense lawyer. So I'm happy to help.
No, definitely appreciate that, Corey. And once again, Corey, thanks so much for coming on the show. And to our listeners, please go to ocpowerplayers.com and follow us on your favorite channel. And don't forget to like us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.